We have a very different country, with more justice, with more equality, with more productivity, with a stronger economy, with stable democracy, with more social justice, with a very proud country, very different from that country that I received in 2007.
With all the achievements of your government over the last 10 years, why did you reject calls from supporters to not run for a fourth term, despite the fact that it was permitted by the Constitution after a constitutional amendment in 2015?
Because it was not necessary, we have responsibility. If it would be necessary, I must be there. But thanks God, thanks Ecuadorian people, we were pretty sure about the electoral victory, and we have a lot of very good candidates. For instance, Lenin Moreno. Because of that, he won the election.
Ecuador has enjoyed the good times in recent years. Now, however, the IMF says that Ecuador has gone into recession. There are statistics in Ecuador which indicate that unemployment is also on the rise. Your critics say that you didn't save enough money when oil prices were high, and now Ecuador is suffering the consequences.
Well, the IMF, the prediction of the IMF are never accurate. They are always wrong, because, for instance, we have overcome the recession. Now we have a growing economy, and we're gonna give to the next president an economy with economic growth and stabilized economy. And well, about savings, there is some misunderstandings. We have the biggest rate of public saving in Ecuadorian history, but they believe that saving is just to have money under the bed. Saving is also to build infrastructure, to build hydroelectrics. So you cannot have public investment without public savings. And we have had a lot of public savings, but we have done also a lot of public investment.
Well, as part of that public investment, there have been strong allegations of corruption against your administration, particularly...
That is not true. This is the propaganda of the opposition. We are a very honest government, but we have isolated cases of corruption. You have also in United States, in British, you have United Kingdom. You have also cases of corruption. Otherwise, a different thing is to have standard corruption. We don't have toleration for corruption.
The US Department of Justice said that more than $33 million in bribes were handed out between 2007 and 2016 related to the Odebrecht scandal. There are indications of corruption that has taken place. There are obviously allegations.
And for this reason, we have a corrupted government. We have to investigate. This is also a declaration from a corrupted businessman, negotiating his sentence with the Department of Justice of the United States. We have to do a serious investigation about that.
So you accept that corruption should be investigated in Ecuador, but you don't say that there's systematic corruption.
We don't have the list yet, We have to get this list, and the list, the Department of Justice has the list.
Okay, so that will be an investigation which will have to take place in the presidency of Lenin Moreno.
And what is the problem?
No problem. I'm just saying that will be passed on to the next government.
Very hard trying to get the list, but we didn't get it. And it's not a responsibility of the central government. We have autonomy of the different institutions of the state. And this is the person in charge of the investigation is the general prosecutor of Ecuador. He's an independent public servant. He doesn't depend on the government.
Turning to the relationship with China, China has been important help for the economy in Ecuador. It's helped build much needed infrastructure. But there are some economists that say the role of China is too dominant, and Ecuador it has high debts to the Asian giants, as well as the fact that there's little transparency around the conditions of the loans which China has extended to Ecuador. What would you respond to that?
I am afraid that you are getting your information from the opposition, because it's very inaccurate. It's untrue. For instance, the external debt with China is just the third part of our total external debt. United States is also in debt with China. That means that United States is depending on China. So it's very transparent that I don't know what we have to explain about that.
Well, forgive me. I mean, I've looked at a think tank in the United States, which is the China-Latin American Dialogue, and they have studied this, and there are debts of more than $17 billion owed to China. By more than $17 billion, according to that information.
Who told you that?
This is according to a think tank in the United States called the China-Latin American.
Well, he can say whatever they want, but that is not true. The external debt with China is around $8 billion.
Now, turning to a more international mode, Donald Trump as President of the United States, what kind of impact will that have on the Americas, and particularly with regard to his proposals for immigration policies in the United States, which will affect Latin Americans and particularly Ecuadorians living there? What does this mean? What does his presidency mean for Ecuador and the region?
I hope nothing, because we have an independent country. I can ask you the same question. What is the influence, the impact of the new presidency in Ecuador on the United States? They don't care about that. We should have the same position, in order to be really independent. But you are right. We have some impacts about the migration policy followed by the Trump government, and we're gonna defend the rights of our migrant people.
Now, turning to what's happening in Ecuador right now, I understand that the Electoral Council has now announced with 99.65% of the vote counted that Lenin Moreno is indeed the winner of the elections. Mr. President, how do you respond to the assertion by Guillermo Lasso, the opposition candidate, that these elections are illegitimate and he won't recognize the results?
He can say whatever he wants, but we have institutions in this country, and the victory is very clear, that he doesn't accept his failure is his problem, not an Ecuadorian problem.
Do you, however, feel that it could create some discord in the country? Obviously, nearly 50% of the country voted for Guillermo Lasso. Do you think there could create a situation of conflict?
Why? This is a democracy. Majority votes for Lenin Moreno. So Lenin Moreno won the election. He's the president of every Ecuadorian.
How do you hope that he will continue your legacy, what you've achieved in the last 10 years?
Of course, he want to continue with our legacy, as you mentioned, and with he has a very clear also government program. Most of it is in order to continue with our public policies, with our reform in education, health, etc. But of course, he has new initiative in order to, for instance, to create more jobs, etc. And that is not true also that we have a very, very high unemployment rate. You know how much is the unemployment rate of Ecuador?
Well, so, according to the Instituto de Estadísticas y Censos, es 1.9% desde marzo de 2015 que ha subido.
Yes, but it's now, after receiving earthquakes, the fall of exports, the appreciation of the dollar, the national currency, is 5.2%. That is high for you?
Do you think that
it's the same unemployment rate of the United States.
Well, I'm here for a Chinese channel. I don't actually know what the unemployment rate is in China, but clearly there are some economic challenges that obviously your successor, Lenin Moreno, will have to deal with.
Of course, we are an underdeveloped country. We have a lot of challenges, especially external challenges. For this reason, well, we have conducted the economy very well, and Lenin Moreno, for sure, he's going to continue with these economic policies and with the social policy, with development policies, but in a better way, for sure.
I know that poverty reduction and the reduction of inequality has been extremely high over the last 10 years.
We are the regional champion.
The regional champion, indeed. And how do you see, looking forward to the next 4 years, the end of the mandate of Lenin Moreno, where do you see the poverty statistics and inequality statistics being at that time?
Well, poverty will continue to decrease, and inequality, the same thing. For this reason, we want to continue with the economic policy, the social policy, with social justice, with opportunity for everybody, for instance, for public education, for public health. And, well, for sure, Lenin will continue with these policies. And the offer of Lenin was to finish his government with zero extreme extreme poverty.
Lenin Moreno has said that, in fact, in the celebrations on Sunday night, he said that he would extend the hand of dialogue to the opposition. He was willing to talk to whoever would be willing to talk to him, to try and create a greater atmosphere of reconciliation. How do you see that offer prospering, given the situation at the moment with Guillermo Lasso, the opposition candidate, challenging the election results?
But why reconciliation? Because they lost the election. Ecuador is very unified. We have national union, you know, a solid nation. But, well, if a candidate that lost the election doesn't want to accept the result, is his problem. But I don't know why the concern about the division of the country, etc. That doesn't exist. It's just a very small political group that doesn't accept the result of the election.
Guillermo Lasso did win 48% of the vote in the country. It's almost half the vote in the country. So he does represent an important sector.
And we represent the majority. But what is the problem?
That's democracy.
Democracy.